Hi, so let's get stuck into implementation, right? So implementation is basically the execution of your design. Whether you've done it yourself or whether it's been done by other people, we should try to not confuse management with implementation, because they are not the same thing, at least in my understanding. Right? And sometimes I think I confused those two before, but I think we need to distinguish that management is kind of the means and implementation is the objective. But it's not the total objective, because when we're implementing, our primary goal is implementation for impact. Okay, so everything we do in humanitarian interventions in terms of implementation and is thinking always about how we can maximize the benefits, the beneficial parts of impact, the benefits, the beneficial impact, and how we can minimize the negative impacts. Yeah, so we need to think about, no matter where we are in the process, even if we've inherited a design, we haven't been involved in the design phase, you have the paper, whatever the paper is, yeah, be it a concept paper, be it a formal, well-elaborated proposal. No matter what stage you inherit that at, you still need to think about implementation as execution of the design, and you need to think of implementation in the terms of what degree of feasibility you are currently at, okay? Because there are different degrees to implementation feasibility, and a lot of things have a bearing on implementation feasibility, right? So if we keep in mind that we're always implementing for the maximum beneficial impact for the maximum amount of people possible, then we need to be constantly adjusting our implementation strategy, which I'll explain in another video, to obtain this maximum impact at all times. Okay, so, but first of all, we have to understand what is getting in the way of our implementation, i.e., what is influencing my feasibility. And there can be things that, it can be the design itself that's the problem, right? That's why we always have to stay connected to the design to see what issues that is causing and adjust them. It can also be indicators, right? If we're operating for indicators rather than operating for impact. I mean, at any moment that you inherit a program, you should look and think, okay, are these indicators really indicative of impact? Or are these indicators that are more attached to the running of services or the quality of services or activities, right? Getting things done rather than generating impact. There's a difference. So how do you get an idea of your implementation feasibility? Okay, so there are a lot of clues that you can find, right? But basically, you will need to get out and talk to people. You need to have a kind of a, basically when you're implementing, you have a paper or the proposal or whatever, or the planning. Then you have the real situation, and then you have your contextual realities, right? So you're always comparing how they are going. Okay, how is what is supposed to happen faring against the contextual realities, right? And then you need to be able to adjust. That's why implementation strategy is so important and so neglected as well, right? People start managing activities and things and they forget that they're implementing, right? So when you're implementing because you want a change to happen, a change for the better, yeah? That's what you're trying to achieve. So good clues are speaking to, as I always say, the people who are supposed to be benefiting from the things you're implementing, to check that they are in fact benefiting and to what degree. Speaking to your teams to get a kind of a problem analysis of attached to the implementation. What blockages are there? What delays are there? What issues are you having, right? So that you can understand and categorize the typology of problems and blockages you're having. What's going well, for example, yeah. Other things can be your implementation capacity, right? And we'll talk more about that in another video, i.e., what is your implementation capacity? And that includes your team, that includes the support departments, that includes your assets, that includes a lot of things, right? Your capacity to get things done, your capacity to generate impact. That's your implementation capacity. Then what's your progress? So you need a progress report. Where are you with if there's something to be made, like, or built? What is the status? If there's services to be run, are they running? To what degree? Then, of course, you need to check your financials and understand the difference between a budget, a forecast, burn rates, etc., yeah, to understand how your implementation is tracking with your burn rate. So the burn rate is how fast your money is being spent, right? So you always need to be on top of that to understand, okay, an ideal burn rate is one that is moving at the same pace as your implementation, right? Not that you're spending more money than your implementation sequences or progress, right? They need to be kind of one-to-one or not too far apart. Okay. What else? And checking what situations may have changed internally and externally, right? All of these are clues that you will need to analyze to determine your implementation feasibility, which put in normal terms is how your implementation is running. Is it running with a lot of challenges? Is it running smoothly? What's happening? And that's key, right? Because if you don't know that, how can you develop your implementation strategy and tactics to improve your implementation feasibility, to improve the amount of beneficial impact that you generate, right? I always find it useful because some people, it's hard to absorb maybe a 40-page document, right, with the proposals. So sometimes it's interesting to draw a visual of the design, right? So if you're having to build water points, draw them where they are, have a map, have different things. If there's services that have to run, draw them as well. Diagrammatic representations of services are interesting. And in terms of using reporting as indicators of how your implementation is going, be wary of reports, because reports often are wishful thinking rather than in-depth analysis of your implementation strategy or your feasibility. So sometimes when we write reports, for many reasons, they can be kind of descriptive things that are more for hierarchical lines or more for the donor and omit a lot of realities. Right, so beware of the wishful thinking report. And if you see that a report isn't deeply analytical and everything seems to be going very well, be kind of suspicious of that, because it's unlikely in a humanitarian situation that implementation would be going well, right? So be wary of that. And also when you're generating reports, make sure that your reports are about these sort of things. Design analysis, implementation feasibility, what's your implementation strategy, and we'll talk a bit more how to talk and analyze impact, right? Because that's the reason for being of everything we're doing, right?